These boots are a crazy price. They're absolutely packed with tech. I have them in this delightful Tricks Pack colorway, and they even evoke memories of the much loved Vapor 10. These are probably the best boot that you haven't heard of that you should try. These are from TLSS, which is a Chinese boot manufacturer that is very new to the game, and they're already doing things that are making people stand up and take notice, which is why I have a pair. Let's talk about the upper, which is where the Vapor 10 vibes come in, because this is made with a Teijin synthetic upper, which of course was for many different Vapors, not just the 10, but the overall texture of this particular boot and the feel of it is definitely more Vapor 10 than it is anything else. They also come with this little packet of labels, which I now have, which basically tell you all the different tech that is in it. One of them being Teijin, which is also made in Japan. So these are Chinese manufactured boots, but with a lot of different elements from Japanese manufacturers, such as the Teijin synthetic. Now, don't expect it to be exactly the same as the Vapor 10. It is a little bit thicker, has a few more elements to it, and of course, you've got this knit centerpiece here as well to make it a one-piece upper boot. But if you're looking for Teijin synthetic, you like the Vapor 10, you are more than likely going to like this upper on the Striker. So let's talk about the touch and get away from the Vapor comparisons, at least for now. So we've got a slightly sticky, tacky, almost rubbery feel to the entire Teijin synthetic upper. And then on top of that, we have the T-Wet grip. The T-Wet grip are these silicone elements. They're just little lines that have been placed onto the boot through the toe box, up through some of the lateral and across through some of the medial side. They just add an extra element of stickiness, especially in wet. Obviously, that's the idea, along with the feel to this slightly textured, slightly rubbery upper. And all in all, it doesn't really get in the way of your touch. Your touch and feel can still feel quite natural and uninterrupted, but it definitely is evident that you get this nice little bit of extra help from time to time, where it's just a little bit stickier than some other, or most other boots. Striking with these is an absolute joy. It's a really lovely, clean touch with just a little bit of extra help. That everything about striking a ball in these is delightful. The one downside is that the upper is a little bit stiff, and with it being that tiny bit thicker and the whole structure of the boot being quite structured, it does need some time to break in, I think. I think you'd want to be giving this a session or two sessions to really get it right. So obviously I'm going to do that. But yeah, just do be aware that I think it's quite structured, quite a little bit stiff almost out of the box. But it'll definitely break in, and striking the ball, lovely. Okay, outsole time, and this is the FG outsole. I do have the MG, which is fantastic AG option in the laceless variation of this boot, the Libero, and I will have a review of that probably already up on the channel. I'll link it at the end of this one. But this is the FG outsole, and it looks fantastic. Now, I briefly mentioned at the start how much I love the colorway here. Like the Tricks Pack colorway I think is amazing. You can get just the green and just the pink as individual sets, but I'm a sucker for a Tricks Pack, and the outsoles themselves do look absolutely beautiful. So we've got mainly conical studs through the forefoot of the boot with a little support stud, blades through the heel, and definitely reminiscent of, for me, the Tiempo in terms of its stud pattern, and also a little bit its performance. Really, really nice. The actual outsole itself, we can go back to my little amount of cards here, because what we also have is Carvo, which is again a made in Japan item. Carvo, let's get it out. This is an insole, not Carvo. The Carvo runs through the front of the boot here. You should be able to see it. It's this black section. So Carvo is a plastic that kind of works a little bit like carbon fiber, and it runs from about here up through the boot, which gives you this really delightful spring back. Now, one thing that I do find boots with Carvo inserts do that I don't particularly love is it just adjusts the bend point. So you end up with a bend point just kind of back here, whereas I would prefer it to maybe have double bend point, like something back here. That's fine to be less aggressive, but also to have something up here. Now, this could just be personal preference, but for example, the Mizuno Alpha, the Made in Japan Alpha with the Carvo, does exactly the same thing. It's just how I like my boots to work, I suppose. But it has the Carvo, which gives you this really snappy, really responsive forefoot to the boot. Then the actual midfoot to the boot is stable enough, particularly in a forwards direction, with a little bit of rotation left to right, which isn't a big deal at all, if I'm being honest, especially with this particular conical stud pattern. It all seems to work together quite nicely. However, we are not done there with the outsole, because within the Strobel board, where you've got the Carvo on top of, there is T-Flash foam. So I'll show you it here. You should be able to see it quite clearly. So there's this T-Flash foam, which is a soft padded foam which runs on top of the Strobel board, and it is incredibly, well, not incredibly soft, but it's just a little bit of extra padding. Kind of think, I suppose, Air Zoom, but maybe what the Air Zoom in the heel should be. It's just a little bit of softness and padding. It's not as intense as what you'll get through the forefoot of the Vapor 16. It's just a little bit of kind of shock absorption and padding, and it does make the heel of the boot more comfortable. But part of that reason is because the insole itself, while having this really nice synthetic suede for the liner, also has a little padded area in the heel, and it just adds to the overall comfort of the boot, and I absolutely love that. The rest of the insole is nothing special, but the material on top, that extra little bit of padding there, and the T-Flash foam through, I don't know how far it runs, but you can definitely notice a little bit of just a softening through the boot, and I think that's really, really nice. Let's talk about the lockdown. The lockdown here is good. There's no real issues with it. I'm not feeling like it's anything absolutely crazy, but I get my foot in. I don't feel like I'm going to move. You've got a decent amount of adjustability with the laces. It is quite simply good lockdown. I don't really have much else to say. I suppose the overall structure of the boot that I was speaking about earlier, which helps your lateral stability, is also helping the lockdown, and the overall shape of the boot is really positive. That's something we'll get into in a bit, and that also helps you feel a little bit more locked into the boot, but there's no lockdown issues here. It's good. Similarly with the heel, I think it is good. It's got a decent shape to it actually, which means that you can sit in it quite comfortably. You have a nice amount of padding, and I never feel like I am going to move or slip out of the heel. I don't think it's anything absolutely crazy. It's not the most comfortable heel on the market. It's not the most locked in heel on the market, but it absolutely does everything that I want it to do. It's a pretty solid internal heel counter, a little bit of help from these little external wings here as well. Again, no problems, no issues. You will not have a problem with the heel here. Pretty much anybody. I don't think anybody's really going to have too many problems. Let's talk about how to get these and how much they are going to cost. Now, these are basically impossible to get at the moment. TLSS doesn't have international shipping. They are working on it, so that they keep saying on their social media. So there is a worldwide shipping coming, but I also believe that will be with an updated version of the Striker. They have just today shown some images of like some updates that they're doing. So Q3, quarter 3, I think is when we're looking at a new Striker, and also potentially when we might be looking at worldwide shipping for these. In the meantime, I got these from Tokyo Football. Tokyo Football don't have them as standard. However, they do have the Tactician, which is the K-leather variation of this. So you can head over to their website, see if they've got the Tactician, check out Noah Kavanagh. He's done a full review of the Tactician, or of course, by all means, drop them a DM on Instagram. You never know what they've got coming in or what they can do. So huge shout out to Tokyo Football for hooking me up with these. So now let's talk about pricing. These, well, the Tactician, should we say, but let's say TLSS boots from Tokyo Football, where I got these, 200 Singapore dollars, which comes in at 130 euros. Now you might be thinking, why didn't I lead with that piece of information, that they were 130 euro boot, which is incredibly cheap? It's because I wanted to go through a large amount, or all of the tech and the features and what they do, before I told you that these are cheaper than pretty much every single takedown model from a big brand that you can go out and get. You're paying 160, 170 euros for a takedown model Vapor GX, F50, things like that. And these are definitely something that belong in that ballpark when it comes to pricing, quality, things like that. These are a very good boot, absolutely packed with tech that you can pick up for, at the moment, 130 euros. So we've spoken about how much and how you can get them, but what size should you buy? Well, to start with, I have these in my normal size, US 8, UK 7, 260 millimeters, yes, 26 centimeters. And that is the normal size that I would buy in, for example, most Nike boots. So there is your reference. The shape on these is absolutely fantastic. It is a really well shaped football boot, in my opinion, which is a mad thing that you have to say, that some boots are just badly shaped. I think overall the shape here is good. There's very little dead space. It wraps up and around my arch very, very nicely. I can get pushed out into the outside of the boot without any real pressure points, although I do have, did have, especially at the start, a little bit of a pressure point just here. But I do feel like that's more of a personal thing. It's not necessarily something that's going to happen to everybody. There is also a reasonable amount of volume through the toe box here, so don't expect low pointed toe box, which I know a lot of people are not a fan of at the moment. There's a good amount of volume through here, also a decent amount of width. You're not going to be too cramped into this space. So if you have a wider forefoot, this should be fine. And similarly with the midfoot, there's also a good amount of width through there as well. So I do think if you do have a wider foot and a flatter foot, these should be okay. But I will say they do fit differently to the laceless Libero that I mentioned earlier. They're not even the same length going that way. So do be cautious of that. And if you want to pick up my laceless Libero review, then you want to click this video right here.